सेव किया था ना?
मैं सिर्फ इसलिए गया था क्योंकि उसने मुझे कॉल किया, that's it. But listen तो.
Save it for someone else.
जिंदगी में सेव करना जरूरी है, मगर जब बात पैसों की हो, सिर्फ सेविंग से काम नहीं चलेगा। इक्विटी म्यूचुअल फंड्स में इन्वेस्ट कीजिए और अपने सेविंग्स को आगे बढ़ने का मौका दीजिए।
Mutual fund investments are subject to market risks. Read all scheme-related documents carefully.
To begin with, Dawood Ibrahim Kaskar must die and the last coffin nail be hammered down, or nothing can come of my story. I wonder if many of you know that from Charles Dickens' Christmas Carol, who knew the art of crafting a great line and also of storytelling. Dickens wrote, "If we were not perfectly convinced that Hamlet's father died before the play began, there would be nothing more remarkable than his taking a stroll at night in an easterly wind upon his own ramparts than there would be in any other gentleman rashly turning out after dark in a breezy spot." 3 decades ago, 12 bombs tore through the heart of Mumbai, killing 257 people and injuring over 1,400. Even today, it remains the most lethal terrorist attack on Indian soil, far larger than 26/11 or 7/7 or the host of apostrophe dates with which we have all become so depressingly familiar. The bombings were vengeance, a judicial commission later recorded, for a police-backed massacre against the city's Muslims that had begun in December 1992. From government records, we know the mafia baron who ordered the bombings will turn 68 on bombing day, 26th of December. There is no way to know where, how, or even if he is still alive. The only journalist ever to report on his life in Karachi, Ghulam Hasnain, found he lived well in, I quote, a palatial house spread over 6,000 square yards boasting a pool, tennis courts, snooker room and a private high-tech gym. He wears designer clothes, Hasnain wrote, drives top-of-the-line Mercedes and luxurious four-wheel drives, sports a ₹500,000 Patek Philippe wristwatch, and showers money on starlets and prostitutes. Finishing Dawood's story has become a kind of pathology in India's media, with imagination serving to bring about the end of an unbearably painful but still open-ended tale. Last week, a shower of fake news tweets assured us that Dawood had finally been poisoned. In 2017, he was rumoured to be claimed by a brain tumour or cardiac problems. In 2016, his gangrenous legs were said to have been amputated. His life was claimed by COVID in some reports and in assassins by others, dating all the way back to 1994. In 2014, when Prime Minister Narendra Modi stood on the cusp of being elected, he publicly vowed to hunt down Dawood. That promise hasn't been delivered on, but some in the Indian media seem determined to proclaim success regardless. After all, you get to write any story you want, right? Since 2005 at least, it's been known that elements of the Indian intelligence services have been seeking to facilitate Dawood's last journey from his home to the grave. That summer, on 11 July, the Mumbai police arrested Vicky Malhotra, a gangster long sought for murder, extortion and arms trafficking. Malhotra was a key figure in the networks of Rajendra Nikhalje, a Dawood lieutenant turned bitter enemy who's currently held in jail. The Mumbai police, we know from the memoirs of senior police officer Miran Chadha Borwankar, had been intercepting Malhotra's phone calls, listening as he arranged a meeting with a man he only called Sir. The man, when held along with Malhotra, identified himself as the just retired director of the Intelligence Bureau. He's been the National Security Advisor since 2014, a man we know as Ajit Doval. Even though Doval denied having been present with Malhotra that day, this account of events figured in declassified United States diplomatic cables as well as multiple media accounts. Former Home Secretary R.K. Singh, who later became a Member of Parliament, alleged that the Mumbai police had deliberately destroyed a covert operation to kill Dawood, authorized by Prime Minister Atal Bihari Vajpayee. The operation, he claimed, had been led by Doval. Later media reports suggested that multiple gang world figures, including Ijaz, Lakdawala and Ravi Pujari, had been hired for similar hits on Dawood. On one occasion, apparently, the group came close to ambushing Dawood at a dargah he visited regularly, but it was foiled by the security arrangements. Indian rage was in part driven by Dawood's increasingly brazen presence in Karachi. Dawood's eldest daughter Maruk married cricket star Javed Miandad's son Junaid at a lavish, very public ceremony. Pakistan's intelligence services were treating Dawood like a national treasure. Former military ruler General Pervez Musharraf said many in Pakistan thought Dawood had done, I quote, a good job, because he'd retaliated against the communal riots. Former Research and Analysis Wing officer Vapala Balachandran, among others, counselled that the practice of using patriotic gangsters as agents of national security objectives was a high-risk strategy. The price criminals working for organizations like the Central Intelligence Agency, paid in drug running and terrorism, defeated the very end sought, he pointed out. As Pakistan's Inter-Services Intelligence Directorate continued to step up strikes against targets in India, though, these voices of caution fell on deaf ears. Following a suicide attack on the Indian embassy in Kabul, then National Security Advisor M.K. Narayanan told journalists, I quote, talk is better than fight, but it hasn't worked. In an essay in the Indian Police Journal in 2012, Doval pointed to the growth of covert action, which he described as, I quote, a low-cost sustainable offensive with high deniability aimed to bleed the enemy into submission. Covert action had proliferated across the world. He noted that other countries had been likely, I quote again, promoting terrorism and insurgencies, political assassinations, social disruption, sabotage, subversion, etc. India, he seemed to suggest, needed the same tools in its arsenal. The deep scars left on India by the 1993 bombings made Dawood a prize target, and it seems reasonable to speculate the campaign to kill him continued despite the early failures. The last man we know for a fact met Dawood was ThePrint's editor-in-chief, Shekhar Gupta, back in 1993 on the eve of the gangster's departure for safe harbour in Karachi. Dawood, Gupta recounts, had promised him an interview earlier. Though he met Gupta at the terrorist's office in Pearl Building in Dubai, which Shekhar describes as, quote, decorated with gold inlaid paintings of Ajmer Sharif and Quranic verses, he declined to speak on the record. There was even a parting threat to the journalist that if any news of his presence in Dubai was published, the outcome would not be good. When a gangster says not good, you know what it means. Later, under pressure from the Multinational Financial Action Task Force, Pakistan publicly listed Dawood's properties in Karachi. That's White House near the Saudi Mosque in the Clifton neighborhood, house number 37 on 30th Street in the upmarket Defence Housing Authority, and another quote-unquote palatial bungalow in Noorabad. We don't know if these are currently his properties or not. Hasnain described Dawood's everyday life as kingly. He wakes in the afternoon, Hasnain wrote. After a swim and a shower, he has breakfast. In the late afternoon, he gives his employees an audience. As the sun sets, Dawood and his party set off for any one of his safe houses in Karachi for an evening of revelry, usually comprising drinks, black label is his preference, mujras and gambling. The long married Dawood's passion for women has made him a favorite client for local pimps, Hasnain recorded. Evidence from international investigations suggests Dawood used his time in Karachi to expand his business too. Lieutenants like Munaf Halari helped Dawood expand into East Africa, the Gujarat police has found. Ethnic Asians with ties of kinship and trade to both Karachi and Mumbai, and often involved in smuggling gold or consumer electronics, provided the backbone for this expansion, scholar Simon Haysom has written. The Akasha and Tahir Sheikh Saeed families in Kenya, Ali Khatib Haji Hassan in Tanzania, Ghulam Rasul Moti and Mohammad Rasul in Mozambique, the little empires of drug running mushroomed across East Africa, with the cargo being transshipped on to Europe. Karachi businessman Jabir Motiwala Siddiq, who narrowly evaded extradition to the United States, is believed to have been one of several figures who laundered Dawood cartel funds through the Karachi Stock Exchange. The wealth was generously shared with senior generals and politicians by the gang lord, enabling their families to educate sons abroad and set up businesses. In essence, Dawood purchased impunity. I know what a ghost is, Salman Rushdie famously observed in his masterwork, The Satanic Verses. Unfinished business, that's what. As a memory, the idea of Dawood represents some of the darkest recesses of India's background. The country's vulnerability to terrorism, its inability to punish perpetrators, and most importantly, the savage communal conflict that has been entwined with the story of Islamist violence. It seems a little awful for this story to end with a man living out his life in painless luxury in Karachi. All of us emotionally need a full stop, real or imagined. The media hasn't got the real one. And a lot of journalists seem happy just making one up. I'm Praveen Swami and I'm contributing editor to ThePrint.